that is a community incubator that is supported by our community. So if we could create a entrepreneurial ecosystem with just a few new ideas, the net result could transform our small town into growing vibrant living, social, economic, and working spaces. So, as you know, we've been talking about, we'd love to use some of the city property on Lake Forest Drive for our incubator, which is our tiny business village. So that's basically what we're here. We've taken the vote 3 times over our last 3 meetings, and all of our EDC directors, that's their focus. That's what they want to do. So we'd like to get everyone on the council to talk about it and give us a yay or nay and see where we can move from there. So I have kind of a curveball for our first proposal. And basically, EDC has $183,000 of playground equipment. We're governed under Texas Codes 501 and 505. And on a non-business development, basically the corporation cannot give that equipment to the city. We can't gift it. We can lease it to you. We can sell it to you. And if I'm not finding the fine print, I've looked in 501 and 505, and they both say the same thing. So somehow we've got to be compensated for the equipment. So our idea, or my idea, is could we trade you some property at Lake Forest? Once it becomes a business development, it automatically becomes owned by the city, which is not true for the parks and recreation type of thing. And it's stated under both codes, 501 and 505. So that's
Linda, is the playground equipment, is that what was done with the grant? The
part of it.
parks
Yeah, the grant was,
like 350,
right.
and then the city contributed like 70 in kind, and
Right.
then EDC put in, I don't know,
180,000. And Carrie and I have gone through the records. And it's $180,000. It was 100.
that doesn't add up to 350, but I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah,
But
well,
it
the
is,
70
I just wanted to make sure it's Klipus Park. Okay.
Right, yeah, and the 70,000 in kind's not included. That's just cash. That's just cash. And it's $35,000, which was half of the loan that the city gave to EDC. $75,000 loan, we paid half of it back. So it's 35,000 of actual cash from the city. And the grant was 100 and something, a little bit more than what was planned on. So EDC spent a lot more money than anticipated. And we've got checks to prove it. And the audit brought it out too. So, but anyway, that's our first idea, that we could basically cure that problem, that we go into a business development idea, whatever we do with that property, it automatically becomes city property. Now, as far as, if we have a time limit or something like that, then we'll have to talk about an agreement. But that's our first thought. So if that's not feasible, then perhaps we could look at maybe a permanent lease, that we could have some property. We're looking at probably the most, not the perfect site, which is the border between the residential zone and the commercial zone. I mean, it's not great as far as trying to have a retail store, but at least it's close to 2483.
Is this the property by the Public Safety Center?
It's around the bend. So you're on Lake Forest, go as far as you can. There is a 3-acre residential property on the corner at the stop sign, and it's right next to
The
that.
left-hand side going into Lake Forest.
The right-hand
I'm sorry,
side.
right, yeah, yeah.
Right-hand side. There is a gate. There's 2 gates by the safety center, well, one by the safety center and one right around the bend. And there's kind of a dirt road from the gate. So we would be happy with a section of property right there for our village.
Are you still thinking about a easy to pop up and easy to take down?
Yes.
The public
Yes, yes.
center needs
Yes.
Because I'm concerned about ingress and egress for emergency situations.
Right, and we've looked at that
Parking,
as well.
I mean, I hope it takes
Yeah.
off.
Right,
But, you know, if we have a lot of people coming on Saturday and public safety people can't get out, I have some concerns about that.
right, and it's quite a ways. It's quite a ways from the safety center. Yeah, it would be,
Wetland.
right, it would be, well, it's all part of the 35 acres, but it's right on the edge. So it would be great to be right next to the fire station, which most fire stations are right next to some kind of building. And, but we'd be okay with taking the worst part of the lot. So,
But you're still thinking pop up, take down easily.
well, we want to bring in a semi-permanent wood structure, and those are also easily removable. Cost $500 to move one. So if the whole idea doesn't work, um, we're hoping if the city develops the area that they'll save a spot for an incubator and maybe a makerspace. And if our buildings are suitable, they could be incorporated into the project. If not, we can sell those off and build a brick and mortar.
Linda, will you have any type of utilities? You'll need
Right.
water, electricity. What about septic? Is that
Okay,
gonna
so
be-
what I've researched about 6 different tiny business villages across the country, and they're made for this kind of a situation. They're made for an empty lot. And the only thing that they supply is electricity. And we'd have to do that. We'd have to put air conditioners in ours. So there's really no water. They would use food trucks would come in, and that would be their food type of thing. And then they would also add like pop-up tents, like we would do what we did for our Saturday markets. So you'd add to it. And to make it work, you need some kind of an anchor. So the reason why we would love to have about 3 acres is that it would be a great place to have entertainment, a place to gather for our residents, rather than having these kind of events in parks like Clapus or Ansay Park, where you're having to park all along the residential streets because our neighbors, lots of complaints on events, money-making events, because this is a commercial area, we're EDC, we want to make money. Keep them out towards the main roads and out of the residential area. So that's our biggest thing that we want to do is have a place to gather, have an entrepreneurial area, a place for somebody to go and look at, have some entertainment type of thing, some little bands. It would be a fun place to go without traipsing through the neighborhood. So any other questions or?
I'm not familiar with city-owned property. Is there any other city-owned property that makes sense for Linda to look at? for
I'm
this
not
type?
aware, I'm not aware of any 3 acres. I know we've looked at some different, not for this purpose, I'm just trying to get a handle of what city owns. That area is under consideration for some other type of development potential.
Right, I know,
So
I know.
City?
for the city, discussion we've had,
I thought
yeah.
something had been going around for like the last 10 or 12 years on that piece of property.
Well, when,
Discussions.
since it's city-owned property, I think it's fair to say any kind of development in that area, I'll put it that way, that could or could not be an anchor for that community, so to speak, on a larger scale. But so there has been some discussions how that land would be used. Has not been decided by council how it's going to be used. It's really a decision you all have to make, but remember, we're talking to some developers and stuff like that along this line that hasn't materialized to the point to make a decision at this point. We're just talking about it and talking about what it would be needed. So that would interfere with this approach if you all chose to do that.
Is there another approach you considered?
How about a 3-year lease? It'll take the
No, I
city.
mean another area.
I'm gonna keep moving on that one. So my other thing is, it's gonna take that long. So it would be a temporary pop-up demonstration. That's what this whole idea is based on. The garden shed type size building, they're easily movable. The only thing we would be adding is we'd have to hook up with electricity and put some kind of gravel down for parking and walkways. So it's not like we're changing that. It would be easily removed, though we're still hoping come up with something, whatever we develop, that is a place for businesses, you know, and not a business that's rooted in our town is a much stronger business than bringing somebody from outside. So, I mean, if we could have a space for that in these plans that I'm sure city has been working on for the last 10 years.
No, I love the
Yeah.
idea. I think it makes so
So,
much sense.
and then the other thing is too, which it's not our first, but if the city had some other piece of property that we could change it more to a business office, not go really retail, because if you get too far out, it's not going to be workable for retail. The other, okay, so my fifth choice, I think, is that there are some other properties in town that we could maybe lease or even purchase. And I'd hate to lease it because it's money that's not going to stay within the city. You know, it's going to be gone. So, I mean, if there's just knowing that we could come up with some kind of agreement to use even the property for a short period of time, just to see how it works. Give the residents something new to look at, you know, something new to go to. So it's temporary. But that if you would support us in purchasing a piece of property or leasing it, that would be our last choice. But there is a piece of property that's 3 acres that might be willing, and it borders our city property. So it's on Lake Forest. So, I mean, that's just a wish list. They may or may not be interested, but for a temporary use, it would be great if we could use some of the city property for an event or that type of thing. I mean, we had the quarterly cleanup, seemed to be fine. So it would be that kind of stuff. So. Oh, come up and talk. Hey, please.
Sorry, I'm so late.
Go for it.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time. To reiterate Linda's point, my name is Jason Johnson. I'm the VP of the EDC. Have been for about the past year and a half. I just want to point out one thing. The primary reason that we exist is to improve the city's tax burden or revenue coming in. There's a lot of work that we need to do. And so we're trying to figure out how we can possibly improve the taxes for the city. And Linda has done her very utmost for many years now. Much applause to her, honestly. We would not exist if she was not here. We have gone through these sites. We've looked at many options. The 35 acres that the safety center and off to the left of that safety center is optimal, primarily because of the in and out opportunity. The sites on it, the parks available, they just don't make sense because you're going to have to still go through residential areas. So if we have any hope to build something larger than we stand right now, it's going to be that 35 acres. The problem is, how do we do that without putting something that is real estate? That is very real developed property. That changes the demographic, changes your property taxes, everything. If we put temporary sites on a building that sit on top of the ground, the only thing that changes is the infrastructure to the electricity. It's very minor. Everything else can be changed, can be developed as it
Question on
goes.
that 35 acres, and I'd need to see a map to refresh my memory.
Of course.
But do we have 2483 access on any of that 35 acres instead of going on to Lake Forest? Okay.
It could be developed. The problem with that is where the current site for trash and brush removal currently is. I've spoken to the owner of Omega, who owns the acreage just to the right-hand side of ours, if you're looking at our main stretch from the high school down to us. And that eventually will be developed to small homes and things like that. It's just a matter of time. It's privately owned currently through his family, but it's just a matter of time. So the development in terms of how that will come into play is much more long-term.
Okay, that makes
Yeah, what we're kind of thinking of is something much more short term, which is down past the safety center into Morgan's Point very briefly. But there is a small gate. The fence doesn't even need to be corrected. That allows you to circumnavigate and circle back through and out through the neighborhood. So it's a giant loop. Look at it on Google. It's very easy to manage. There's parking available. So there's a small subsection that would make sense. Concept here is to just see if something makes sense. Try something that is like Linda said, a pop-up demonstration. Can we get our local businesses involved in a sense? It's gone. Our local businesses, other small businesses to that. Do both. Band business, maintain what they currently have. Downside is we don't have a destination area that we're in. Temple owns a lot of that. Chick-fil-A just came in. That's 90% of the business is going to come through right there. Have that opportunity, something that is desirable for our local homeowners, that appeals to them, as well as outside of that. If we can't do that, we don't have much hope.
Do we have some options? I mean, are we aware of people that want to come in and take some space?
The downside from that, as we've looked into, is kind of like a cul-de-sac. As Morgan's Point stand, we're more of a cul-de-sac community. Yeah. So without something there that drives them to it, it's really difficult to assume that we can pull somebody from somebody else, Temple, Belton, Killeen even, to bring that business to us, to improve our taxes, to improve our roads, to improve the community as a whole. And that's kind of what we're trying to figure out. Is there a way that we can create something that's good and beneficial, that both advantages our community as well as potentially helps our community abroad? It's difficult, and especially difficult without a lot of funds. You have to get investors and developers, and those things take millions upon millions of dollars. Our pop-up demonstration concept is to kind of preface and start that concept. If we can get attention, that will bring potentially, and in being involved in the EDC for at least 2 years, to try to figure out how do we help the community as a whole. This is the cheapest, fastest way that we can do that, to test the community as abroad. Linda, anything else you want to add? Of course. Please, if I may.
Greg Wiseman, I'm on the board of directors. So when I've been on for about 6 months, and I kind of went on a mission with our also all of the markets that go on, talk to vendors, and actually got 3 solid commitments from established businesses that thought it was a fantastic idea. If we keep it on a 3-day-a-week basis, I think that's kind of the plan. A 7-day-a-week doesn't make sense, especially at the start. But a 3-day-a-week pop-up weekend system, they were in. They thought it was a great. In fact, one of them asks me every time I see him, "So how are you guys doing with the village?" So there's a lot of interest. Even at our market that we had vendors. We floated that idea. They said they would love something like that. And some of them were, Morgan's Point Resort. Some were Belton. Some were Temple. Some were Moody. But it's a great idea, and the concept is the really low overhead. And so they're not paying the big dollars to establish a business. People want something to do in this town. And that's a great way to do it. We could have a pavilion, have music, food trucks, and then people who live, even young entrepreneurs, we can set aside for them. They can come and work it. So this is kind of a passion project for us, but we definitely got commitments for businesses that would be interested. So, and I think we could get more I did both market days in Belton. I did the pop-up Fridays in Temple and events. So if we went around to events, all the local ones, and really hit, I think we could really pull in some good business.
And you're thinking,
Excuse me, Dorothy, I appreciate that presentation, but I would like the council to start asking questions. We have limited time here today.
Sure,
So-
sure.
Because we have another meeting, but I know there's some questions that the council has that I think they need to be addressed right now. So
So Greg, is there any preliminary numbers as far as like, let's say we got you guys 3 acres, what's it gonna cost to actually make this turnkey to where we can get it going?
Jason's probably a little bit better with numbers. We kind of bandied it about, but I'll let Linda.
So I checked into one of the smaller buildings and probably to put the finishing touches with air conditioning, we're looking at like $8,000 to $10,000, get ADA compliant. So we would have that issue. I think we could still handle with the way the land is to park on it. We park it on Ansay Park. Everybody's on the grass. So that kind of cost would not be there. So it'd be hooking up to electric. So I'm not quite sure. I was hoping to be closer to Safety Center and hook onto theirs. But we'd have to put our own pole in, I'm sure. But we want to start basically small and subsidize the markets with the pop-up tents and the food trucks. And as we gain interest in it, then maybe we add, a lot of the cities, they'll start out with 4 and they'll add 1 or 2. The largest one I know is 12 of the little houses, and that's up in Michigan. So it would be kind of based on ours. And like I say, it is a pop-up demonstration, and we just see how it goes. But we can always sell them off. The electric pole will always be good.
And I know you were pressed for time because there's other things here, so I just want to just say a couple of things to council, just so you all be aware of it. One is that property, the 35 acres, has been a part of discussions, active discussions. So just letting you know that, and I don't want to go into a lot of detail because we're not there yet, but so if you choose to do that, keep in mind what the previous discussion was just a few weeks back when we talked about it. So that's one. Two is, it might be better for you all, just a suggestion, is if you got a written proposal with the pros and cons. Lighting is one, electricity is one thing, bathroom's another. Parking is one thing, whether there's noise, if it's, how is it going to affect the residents in the area? There's a lot of pros and cons from different points of view, and I would definitely want the body to consider that in the decision-making process. Each would be addressed, and then you'd have something in writing to kind of consider firsthand before any kind of directions provided. But I just definitely want to let you know there's active discussions going right now about the use of that land.
So just real quick, that's one of the reasons we'd love to bring the events out there, is because of the noise and the light, because that's commercial. So that was one of the things to try to keep that type of event out of the residential areas. So, anyway, thank you. Are you going to the question?
Well, the city of Tiverton,
It's different than our idea. Most incubators are a huge brick and mortar building. So this is a whole different concept. So if you look and research business incubators, they're usually a great big brick and mortar, and that's very expensive. So ours is a pop-up idea, but
I'd like to see at least some estimates on revenue and what that would be anticipated to be in part of that proposal that you're talking about, Dennis. I mean, the fact you can do it, and you also have the option, it would seem to me, we have Oakmont, which is a beautiful park that we do not use smartly. You could pop up down there. You don't have to do anything.
well, that's kind of against what our goal is, which is to keep the traffic and the parking out of the residential area. I mean, I'd love to do it at Oakmont. Beautiful view. Everybody would love to go, but that's against our goal of to keep the traffic and the parking out of the residential areas. So that's kind of why we're leaning that way.
parking would be at Oakmont Park.
Yeah,
It's
you
just
wouldn't
the
be on the streets.
traffic
I mean, all you
going
gotta do is
down
get in
Canyon.
and out of there.
Well, yeah, I guess depending on how big you are, how big the event is. I just tell you, having done a couple, 3 markets this last year, doing individual pop-ups like that is a lot of work. But if you have something on a more permanent, you have an association that runs it, it makes it a little bit easier on volunteers. because you know that's going to be a volunteer group. And also, I want to also remind you that EDC does have some funds saved, so it's not going to be a drain on the city. So anyway, that's another idea. And also the trade, remember the
Council, we're gonna
trade.
need to
for
move
Clayton
along. We've
Park.
got some other stuff we have
Thank
to
you,
address
Dennis.
before we get in there. So is there something, in closing, is there something you would like the EDC to present to y'all? Or I know Pat mentioned cost analysis. Is there something that we can go and look at
Yeah,
this?
I'd like the pros and cons and options. Yeah, because I'm not certain about the land. I think the land is a little gray to me as to if that's the best use, even on a 3-year lease.
Okay,
So-
okay, so if we don't go that way, how about the support of another piece of property? Right, okay.
It doesn't affect, because I know where you're coming from. You know, we don't want a bunch of traffic in our residential areas.
Right, right, right. And I know where Dennis B is coming from too. So it's, I want to plant the seed for that idea, small, to bring in all these big businesses. Who's going to drive into Morgan's Point when they can get it much easier right off the road? So we've got to be unique if we're going to
It'll
do
be a
anything.
topic for discussion for the near future. So, Linda, thank you for y'all's
Okay.
presentation, everybody. I appreciate it. Hate to
Okay,
run, but
thanks.
we do have a
Thanks,
few other
guys.
things. Dennis, do you want to bring up the deal on tax appraisal or representation on
Sure.
that?
I'm going to go ahead and give it to Camille. She's here for DS 24-039, discuss vote cast to elect directors for the tax appraisal district for Bell.
I'll only take one. No, so basically, this is just a new change, and this is actually a change that happened in Senate Bill 2 in the 88th legislation, which was in January of 2023. So in the past, the local appraisal districts board was comprised of 5 members or whatever the number was, but the bigger cities and the school districts combined to get one, and then basically the smaller cities all had an at-large combined one. So basically, whoever sponsored the bill in the 88th legislation said they wanted to change it and they wanted to make it more democratic. So now in the packet, you can see Bell County now has 5,000 total votes to allocate through all these members that are on the ballot. So the chief appraiser, Billy White, didn't tell us how to do it or anything like this. If you want to do it pro rata, you can do that. Jared Bryan is currently the small community member, before this change takes effect. He's also on the ballot right now. So basically, y'all can figure out a system of how you want to allocate your votes, and then that's all we need action for tonight. So pretty simple.
Thank you, Kerry.
I still got 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Nay, if I got 2 minutes, I'll.
Gonna mention it. Kerry, let me ask you a question, Kerry. I know you said we could prorate these votes, but does that mean that if we prorate 3 votes to each one of these people, they're all gonna have to be in attendance at the council meetings? Moffitt?
Small
Yeah.
city. So this has to do with our council meetings. This is the board for the appraisal
Understand,
district.
But I mean, they have to be the president.
No,
of the
they're going to take the top vote getters, and whoever the vote getters are Bell County wide will now be the Bell County Appraisal District Board.
Oh, so it's not just us, we're just voting on our,
Right, so that's why I put the allocation in there, because you can see Bell County itself gets 898 votes, Killeen ISD gets 877 votes, the school districts, it's based on your overall tax levy.
Right.
So, basically I hate to say this, but our 26 votes might not mean much.
Right.
So,
right.
but yes,
It'd
in
be
the
still
past,
good,
Jared
yeah.
Bryan has been our representative for the
Are
small
we
cities.
being represented? We give everybody 3 votes is what I'm saying. Probably don't. Probably need to keep it at least at one person, don't y'all think?
Well, the one that gets the most votes, the 5, there's going to be 5.
That I'll make sure I'll look it up real
Okay,
quick. I
yeah,
could,
so there is going to be a finite number.
Right.
Almost like how we do our city council
correct.
elections at large.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Kerry. Oh,
Yeah, and then I'll just move straight to the waste management. Obviously, this is an annual increase. The only reason I even put it on the workshop discussion is because we did factor a budget increase. It was a little, or 2%. So this increase will go effect. Ideally, we did have a meeting because obviously with Dennis being new, the local representative, Paul, who's been the manager, this area manager for a long time, he came in and met with Dennis. So ideally, we got this after our last council meeting, so this was the next time to put it in. We asked him, we have a couple other issues we want to talk about with waste management, but ideally, should be able to get this rate based on what they gave us into next year's budget. So then basically when we approve the budget, we're kind of approving the rate increase next year.
Because they're going to give it to us earlier than they normally would, is what they said. Around, was it May timeframe?
Right.
So we'll have it earlier, enough hopefully with the submission of the budget.
When is this effective for
It'll be-
us to pay Waste Management?
The end of, right. So
November
on our
1st?
November, no,
November
so it'll be on our November, like our final November bill, so which we collect on the utility bill for this next month.
I just want to make sure we give residents.
Right, so
notice.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be tight because typically they give us, but that's ideally, that's why I wanted to explain it to y'all. Get it out in the summer, then we'll make sure that yes, ma'am.
Because he only approached us, what, a couple, 2, 3 weeks ago.
It was
That's-
after the last meeting.
Yeah, it's like this a little bit late in the game, so, but he says we can do it sooner. I said, we definitely need it sooner, so that's
But I'm
what.
gonna let you got 10 minutes.
It won't take that long, I don't think. We got the audits for the city manager updates. The next audit's going to be brought on the November 18th. We're going to have a special session. You all know about that, council members. That's for the FY '22 audit, to get that. Also, during that, we were going to bring a audit engagement letter authority for me to enter into for fiscal year '24 and fiscal year '25. We might as well go ahead and knock that out at the same time. And so at the end of that '25 fiscal year, that will be 5 years with the current auditors that you have right now, or that we have right now. So those are 2 action items. One is to accept the audit on the 18th, and the other one will be authorize me to enter into an audit engagement letter. Also, the comprehensive plan, I sent you out a notice, and I've also sent it to Ken Hobbs, P&Z. And the bottom line is the process is coming to the end as far as developing the comprehensive plan. We are supposed to have it in our possession on Monday, November the 18th by close of business. And there's a process, and that has been forwarded out to you all. And that process will end with the adoption scheduled for February. There were some things they want to talk to, like Corps of Engineer on. Fine, do that. There's some
Okay.
tweaking they wanted to do.
So we need to look at this next one.
This will be the formal review. In other words, they're done with it, and this is the formal process like most cities go through for adopting a final product for a comprehensive plan. So
Did I
it's
see that Colliers is going to be there on the 18th?
I think they're going to drop it off to us. It's due to by the close of business on the 18th, so they'll probably send it to us with online form comments. I believe that's what it says here. So there'll be a process that follows, but you won't see any action until P&Z starts on the 26th. That's where it really starts moving. There'll be an opportunity for comments and what have you, questions and comments. A lot of that FAQ stuff should already be answered by them, so we won't have to repeat a lot of things that they see in other cities when they adopt a comprehensive plan or going through that process. So hopefully what they're going to send us will answer some questions up front, and things that don't, the process will begin, and it's going to let everybody to weigh in. Everyone's going to get an opportunity before it comes to council for final decision on whether you want to adopt it or not. I already told them the commercial zoning is something that I think is lacking, or based on conversations I've had since I've been here. So that's one thing I can see. We might be able to tweak before we actually get it adopted. Okay, the next thing is I want to do the staffing update. We have 2 new faces today. We have Nida Santana, it's spelled N-A-Y-D-A. Nida, would you step up? And I'm gonna let her introduce herself. Yes, Nida is going to be our public relations, but she also deals with procurement and grants. So she'll be a procurement specialist and grants manager. She's wearing 3 hats tonight, and we're happy to have her. And
Healthcare administration to government relations and writing grants for about 22 years now. So I'm very excited to be a part of the Morgan's Point team. I've tried to make my way to the different departments, and I am excited to jump on board. I'm an open book, so please stalk me. Feel free to ask any questions. Inside joke, inside joke. Feel free to ask any questions, but I'm excited to jump on board and get some grants and some planning going on. I do want to just add that I do have my master's in public administration, my bachelor's, and I'm also diving into my doctorate in strategic government leadership. So another little hat that I have, but I'm excited to join you guys. All right. Thank you.
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
And Mike, give us a few minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. After that, I don't even know what to say. I have been in commercial and residential construction for about 25 years. Managed projects all over the country. point of time, one of my kids, or the last child of ours, had grown up. My wife said I needed to stop traveling. So I started to look to what am I going to do around home, and that's when I went to work for the city of Austin. And I started out in code enforcement, spent 5 years there, and worked in development services with inspections and things like that. After that, I was offered a position with the city of Belton, and it didn't quite work out between us, and then I ended up coming here to your fine city and looking forward to it. I've been driving around today, really like what I see. There's work to do, and I'm the one to get it done.
Right,
Yeah.
a lot of work.
Appreciate it. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next,
Mr. Carpenter, I told you we were going to address two of those issues. There were two of your answers right there. Is that fast enough for you?
all right.
Communications and code enforcement, okay, so there you go. Go ahead, I'm sorry,
Yes,
Dennis.
sir. Water storage tank on the CIP side of the house, the water storage tank, substantial completion, this timeline's been moved. One reason or another, we're at substantial completion in 11/22/24. We are actually a little bit ahead of schedule from what I saw today. We have basically a Gantt chart that tells us where they're going to be and what they're going to be doing. Also, after that's finished, there's still some landscaping, some document closures and stuff like that still have to occur. So it won't be finally completed until that's done, but substantial completion will be at 11/22. I believe, talking to Jesse, he believes that we're on track, a little bit ahead of schedule on that, so I think we're okay there. And the rest of it, landscaping stuff, won't take long. I think they got to set a pole, 20,000, so I call it a credit back to the city for 20,000 that they carried as electrical allowance. That said, the sidewalk, TxDOT has not arranged for the meeting with the engineer, so there's no AFA to this point. In other words, we have not entered into an agreement. I want them to walk the property with us and have some discussions about a lot of other things before we get started on it, before I feel comfortable, which we talked about the last time we were here regarding the sidewalk. But other than that, that's pretty much where we're at, and that's all I have to say.
FEMA?
Oh, FEMA, there we go. FEMA. FEMA, we have, by statutory law, we have to have it, what's called the damage inventory sheets or list, if you will, done before tomorrow, I think is the deadline. And I think it's actually loaded up and we're done. But the state law or the federal law says you got 60 days to do all this. That's where you're looking at not only the damage, but the dimensions, the quotes to get it fixed. You got to factor in any kind of reimbursements you've had. There's different things that all come into play. We have to make sure we load up. But that said, that's coming to a close. The rest of it is dealing with the debris, which is the heavy lifting things. We're from our perspective, but these other things are nonetheless important. The only things really holding us up on the debris side of the house is we're waiting for one invoice. Apparently, when the tipping fees dealing with taking you have all the debris collected and you got piles and piles of it. Well, it's reduced, chipped down, if you will, and into basically where you can measure it by the square yards. Well, that's taken to the landfill, Temple landfill. The contractor's saying, well, they told us it was going to cost us $32 per cubic yard, and they're charging us $50. That can be, from 300,000 plus to 150, 160. Huge swing. They're having an issue. We reached out to FEMA and said, look, can you intervene, see what you can do about making this thing go away so we can get at least bill us for what they were quoted. They can settle the rest between themselves later. Haven't heard back from FEMA. We got a meeting. They end up canceled the Tuesday meeting. We're going to meet with them, or was it last Wednesday? Either way, we're going to meet this coming Friday to discuss it in more detail and hopefully wrap up that aspect of it. The biggest thing is you can understand that because you're looking at 150,000 or better swing. So I got why they're doing it. We're not the only ones in the same. We're not the only one in that boat. The county said that they're having the same issue with the same problem because our stuff got hauled off to Temple at the same time theirs got hauled off. The law, they can't go over it. So, but at the same time, they're trying to get it worked out to where they can get to 32. I understand why they're doing it.
Podium. Evan Abel here is going to do our invocation and pledges, so if everybody will please rise.
to serve our community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognize our responsibility to the past and the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on efforts here today. May we act wisely and well. Pledge. Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Yeah.
Do you have any further comments you'd like to make?
Huh?
Do you have any other comments you'd like to make?
So, yes, I do. So just recently in our troop, me and my brother Lucas Abel have recently earned the right Eagle from the National Board.
All right.
And we are fixing to do a camp out, I think, in the following weekend.
Congratulations. That's it's quite an honor. Thank you for your help, your work. Sherry, is there anybody on the list? Okay. Yes. Nobody signed up to say anything. Y'all believe in that, or do you want to? Okay. Okay, if that's the case, we'll go ahead and proceed with the meeting then.
You want to talk? Oh, I thought you were kidding.
Do what?
I thought you were kidding.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Donna.
She would like to talk.
Did you? I'm sorry, we can't accept that.
Oh, yeah, I know. Good try, you guys. Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to speak a little bit about chickens.
Name and address, please.
I'm sorry, Donna Hartman, 112 Great West Loop. Okay. Oh, you interrupted my 3 minutes, so I get about 30 seconds. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about chickens. First, I'm not biased against chickens. I love them. They're delicious. But I have nothing against them or pets. I wanted to just explain to the council, years ago, we passed an animal ordinance that kind of limited the number of chickens. Mainly it was because for the kind of the opposite reason you're looking at it is we had citizens come and say, we're having a terrible problem. Our neighbors have chickens. It smells, it stinks, it's bringing varmints. And so we kind of made the animal ordinance, included the fowl in it, and made it a little more restrictive. We wanted our people with land, that had land, an area where the chickens could roam, and, it's not good for the chickens to be confined either. So we did make that allowance, and we've always in this city made allowances for any special projects that they had, FFA, any of the schools, anything that they had like that. There's always an exception. My concern, and I know David brought up a lot of the stuff, but another thing, the animal ordinance has been living and breathing. We have changed it. At one time, it was a rage to have pot-bellied pigs. And I don't know what we were thinking as a council, but we did our research, and it was like, oh, they're clean, and they don't grow bigger than a dog, and people love them, and they make pets. And so we were approached about it. And so being the kind council that we're like, well, sure, why not? They're kind of like a little pet dog. Well, it didn't work out like that. The one pig grew, what, Larry, 500 pounds? And anyway, it was a disaster. So we recognized that probably was done in error, and we corrected that. Now, if you read your animal ordinance, it says no swine. So it's living and breathing. But my concern is we are in residential neighbors. There are some that have acreage. There are some that have land where the chickens would be totally appropriate. But I believe in rights of people to do what they want with their property. But there also comes a time we have to look at the neighbors and what are their rights. And is it really fair to them on a 70 lot, on an 80 lot, where even if you went 25 feet, 50 feet, there's all kinds of problems that they have with them. And David, I know at your workshop mentioned several of them. There are diseases, there are rodents that come for the food, there are snakes that come for the eggs, and unless you clean your coop on a regular basis, there's a horrible stench. So we have problems when you get on our websites where people are upset about dogs and cats, and really kind of get into some pretty heavy discussion. And I'm afraid if you start opening this up, that it's going to be a whole lot worse than dogs and cats. So I just want you to keep in mind, I support property rights of individuals, but I think we need to think about the neighborhoods. I don't think somebody said, I'm going to buy an 80 by 100 lot in Mortgage Point so I can raise chickens. Most people that want to do that try to find some land for them so that they can roam and free range, and it's not good for the chickens to be in a coop all the time too. That's very dangerous to the chickens. So anyway, just some things to think about, and I know it's living and breathing, and maybe you can come up with a compromise. If you compromise, I also want to state there are lots that are 70 foot wide, but they go back. You know, in our neighborhood in Great West Loop, we go back, 300, 400 feet. So think of those folks too, if you're going to make some concessions and say at the back of their property, you might want to say how far is it from a residential home. That might be better than the sidelines. So just some things to think about, but be very careful what you do when you start adding less restrictions to what can affect neighborhoods. So thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, council, move right along on our agenda. Oh, okay. You gonna do that? Okay. We okay, first thing on there is the department presentation, so I'll turn that over to Dennis.
Yes, Mayor, City Council, we didn't finish all the presentations we needed to do. Taryn was out of town, and I'd like him to give it personally. So we've got Fire Department before the Fire Department, Administrative Services Department, which is Catrice. She'll be up. Who's going first? Catrice? Yes, I think she wants to do it and get it over with. So we'll have those two for tonight. And I think we'll have one more after this, and that will be finance, and we should be bringing that. My hope is to bring that next meeting on the 11th or whatever it is, the second Tuesday of December. Go ahead.
Okay. Testing. Yep. My name is Catrice Jackson. I am the Services Director. So for you that don't know me, so I'm just going to read off of this. Talking about building permits, the activity for it. For the year, we issued a total of 129 permits. The majority of them being re-roofing, especially because after the storm. So that was 58. So it's reflecting that there is ongoing maintenance and property improvement within the city. Other permits that were included were new homes, storage buildings, electrical, generators, carports, and single permits for manufactured home and other things as well. This variety shows an active level of property development and improvement projects within the community, with roofing needs leading the trend this month. Or I said this month, but well, it was this month as well. Marina activity, the marina recorded a total of 120 gas and oil charges amounting to $8,754.88. The gas and oil charges, or when we have people that patronize our marina for gas or oil for their boats, they don't have to have boats in our slip, but they can buy oil or gas from us. And our busiest month was in August. Of course, that's also the hottest month because we show it in utilities as well. And we did have 3 new slip runners for the year, which is rare because, as you know, whoever's waiting on a slip, it's like someone has to die or retire before you get into the slip. And the marina building, the Public Works Department is assessing the building. If anyone, I don't know if anyone's gone in, there had been some damage inside from the storm. So we're trying to get that taken care of so Ronnie doesn't have to be stuck in that. New utility service connections for the year, we had 169. 165 of it was residential family connections, indicating steady growth within the city. 4 of those were commercial. Most of that is either the property management companies or businesses, and that changes throughout the year. I wanted to touch on the software conversion because I know I probably had some phone calls from some people in the audience. Um, so as of November 5th, we have successfully transitioned to the new FundView software across the city for the utility billing and management. This also includes Marina. Um, the key points to take away is for those who previously registered their accounts online. That means if you had your account set up to be drafted from your credit card or your debit card, you will have to re-register your account at this new link. Delete the old link because what it's doing is taking you back to the old payment portal and not to the new one. We found out that even though we have it set up a certain way, if you on your phone or device hasn't deleted that completely, it will take you back to the old payment portal. I actually this morning had like 5 days of the new of the new bill being paid on the old system. Um, auto drafts, if again, credit card. If you have bank drafts though, where not where you go in to your account and have your bank draft it or send us a check, but you actually came to the office and filled out a piece of paper that allows us to draft it or me to go in and say, okay, this is the account we're gonna take this much as it says. You don't have to worry about anything. Everything transferred over correctly. It is only the credit cards and the debit cards that we have to worry about. Let's see what else here. Bills are now being printed and mailed by a third-party service, which streamlines the process and enhances the accuracy. I am glad to say that if y'all haven't received your bill, because it has been moving slow, they do include an envelope so you can mail it in if you like, or just an envelope for you to put in the Dropbox if you are one of those residents that like to drop off the bill. And for the billing assistance, for anyone needing a physical copy of their bill, our office can provide printouts at any time. All you need to do is come up or call, because we'll print it out and we can email it to you as well. I am aware that most of you have received your bill starting Saturday. And some of you have still not received your bill. If you do want a copy, please contact City Hall and we will get that for you. Also, I will not be penalizing anyone because it is not you guys' fault that the bills went out late, nor is it our fault that the bills went out late. It's just the process of conversion. It happens. This is the second conversion I've been through and it happened the same way. It's always like a week or two late because they're trying to make sure everything's correct. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't any kinks because we found a bunch today, but we are working to make sure you guys' bills are correct. If you think it's not, give us a call. We will help you in figuring out what's going on. Yep, we saw activity, just in summary, we saw activity, active permits, and a steady increase in service connections reflecting community growth. The FundView software conversion was successfully launched to further improve our service delivery. And thank you for your continued support in enhancing our city services.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Good report. Taryn, gonna do the Taryn, you're next.
Tasty chicken. I was watching some endearing news story this morning about a handicapped potbelly pig they built wheels for, and I saw his name up on the screen. It's Chris P. Bacon, which too much. But anyhow, is this thing on? You guys can hear me, okay? True story. But all right, I'm Taryn Vasquez. I'm your fire chief. I think most of you guys know me. I know most of y'all in the room tonight. Thanks for coming. I'm going to go through some of our Q3 report, and as I go through the numbers, keep in mind the Q3 report is cumulative, everything Q1, 2, and 3. So when we look at runs, it's not just runs for July, August, September. It's everything year to date. which may make some of this make a little bit more sense. We are a combination staff department. I think pretty much everybody in the room is familiar with how we're staffed. We're not truly a volunteer department. We're not truly a career department. We're kind of somewhere in the middle. And where that staffing comes from is from 3 different sources: strictly volunteers, a few part-time people that work PRN, is our term for that, and career staff. And we pay attention to those numbers shift year to year, quarter to quarter, because they tell a lot about our ability to grab people to come in and run calls. So I'm trying to look at 2 different monitors and talk on the mic, and that's not working very well. But our career staffing was 53% for the quarter of all hours worked. You'll see a breakdown of that underneath. Our volunteer staffing was 39% for the quarter of all hours worked, and then 8% is PRN staffing. And to qualify the PRN staffing, that's if we have a career staff member that's on sick leave, on PTO, on vacation, any type of leave, we draw first from our part-time pool, which has no fringe benefits with it. It's a little bit more, it's a bit better for you guys as taxpayers and pulling from our overtime budget to do that. So that's where that comes from. And then sometimes we'll pull it to augment staffing. For example, we had to pull some people in for the weather event we had on May 22nd and some of our wildfire staffing as well. So before I move on, are there any questions about the breakdown I can entertain? I know there's a lot of numbers to look at, but okay. Meaningful certification. So what we call effective response force, you want to know that people are not just coming to your call, to your home, to your house, or whatever to deal with your emergency. You want to know people are coming that are qualified, that have the right tools, the right level of training, the right level of certification, the physical ability. So that's what we focus on, not just the numbers here. But the numbers are important, and in our numbers, we have the TCFP, it's the Texas Commission on Fire Protection. That is the professional certifying body for the state of Texas. In 2023, for this quarter, we had 10 TCFP firefighters. We've grown 30%. We have 13 TCFP firefighters as of today. That's still accurate. Paramedics, we've stayed at 8 quarter to quarter, which is about 1/3 of our total staff is completely qualified as a paramedic. A new one up there on the board is AEMT. That's advanced EMT, and that is somewhere between a basic EMT basic, who provides a basic level of care. They can do CPR, they can give certain medications, they can do first aid, and that's what most of the firefighters you see in Temple and surrounding areas are. Given the fact that we're 15 to 18 minutes from a hospital, and that we have sometimes an ambulance that's about 30 minutes or more away, because we draw from ambulances from different areas of the county, it's important that we have staff that's able to do advanced care. So the advanced EMT bridges the gap between EMT and paramedic. And you'll see that we lost 2 EMTs, but we didn't lose them actually. They became advanced EMTs. So Battalion Chief Shane Sibley, my second command, and Captain Mark Wilkerson both earned that certification over that quarter. A little bit longer in that quarter, but that's when they actually garnered the certification and brought it in hand. And so that's added a new dimension to you guys for your health care that's available here in the city. EMTs, we've stayed static otherwise, other than losing those 2 that moved up. And then the CPR folks, we had a couple folks have come and gone. There's always a little bit of wash that happens in the department. We stand at 25 strong currently. Sometimes it's 21, sometimes it's 27. It's just the way it goes, but that's where that EMT number fluctuates. So any questions on that? Nope. All right, so you want to know how quick we can get there. It's like pizza delivery, right? So our total response time, more important than pizza delivery, I think, but our total response time is or it's free. I was going to say it's free. It's not. We all know it's not free, but it's free. It's free at the time of service. But so what the response time talks about is the elapsed time from the time the call comes into the dispatch center to the time we actually have somebody there that has arrived at your emergency. We don't have a lot of control over the dispatch center. That's Bell County. That's where it's united. So if you call 911, it's all going to be the same call center. But they do a very good job. In fact, we did our ISO rating back in 21, and they did phenomenal. I think they'll get an 88%, which is a great grade on that. So we're real happy with that performance. Our response times for the city in 2023 for the quarter is 5.91, and I meant to convert that into seconds, but that's pretty close to 6 seconds, just shy of 6 seconds, and then 5.58. So we're about 5.5 minutes response time here in the city, which is remarkable for a department our size. And we're getting more people there that are better certified and better trained, and also it's a good thing for you guys. Our county response time looks higher. Now, we do have to consider that the May 22nd tornado was in there, or weather event rather was in there. Some of the responses were hours, and that definitely throws your times off a little bit. Naturally, they're around 7.5 minutes for the county area that we attend to, which is just south of here off of Adams, the Woodland Point, Woodland Trails, and some of the Arrowhead Point area. And that's a respectable response time for out there as well. So we know a couple things on response time. Every 30 seconds, fire can double in size. Think about that. Next time you have a fire in your fireplace and it gets out of control. We also know that your survivability of a cardiac arrest you lose 10% for every minute that you're in cardiac arrest that you don't have an intervention. We've had some good cardiac arrest saves this quarter as well. One very, very close to where we are right now tonight. And then for the golden hour is something that's been perpetuated. There's a little bit of mythology to that, but basically about an hour of time from the time you're traumatically injured till you get acute care in the hospital. And so those are the things we look at, and that's why the on-time delivery of our services is so important. Any questions on the response time? You guys are easy. Call volume. So call volume. I put it out in a pie chart because I think it's important to recognize we are fire rescue. And though we drive in their big red trucks, and that's what a lot of people affiliate or associate us with, anywhere from 60 to 70% of our calls are typically from EMS. That's changed a little bit this quarter, and some of that again goes back to there were 77 calls related directly to the weather event, and most of those were not EMS calls. So that threw the numbers some. But in 2023, we had 218 fire rescue calls versus 296. 78. The variance of 78 is probably mostly attributed to the weather event. EMS calls, we've gone up about 12% EMS calls, and in total, we've gone up 21%. So we are on the rise with call volume. That's natural. It's happened year to year. And we'll see that, it'll vary quarter to quarter, but on the average on the years, we're going up about 5 to 10% in call volume. Questions on call volume? No. All right. I think I'm missing a graphic here. Some of the things we do, we train. We have daily company schools. We just started a recruit class back in September 1st. It's actually August 31st, where we brought people in from the community. We were looking for that 18-year-old demographic that's wanting something to do. They've either gotten out of high school or they're about to get out of high school, and they want to do something productive, and we want to train them how to do that. We were fortunate to grab 3 in that initial ask, I guess, if you will. We picked up another that was a defector from another department. So we have 4 now, and then we have an internal one as well. So I think we're going to graduate 5 if all goes well coming up here. We also train to fight, and we do regional training. We have territory exams over the different mapping areas. You heard us talk a little bit about the box map system, having different ways to divide up the city. Our folks train on that every month. They have to actually review not just where the streets are and be able to recall them, but what's out there, what type of infrastructure is out there, what hazards are out there. And we do pre-planning activities. So you'll see sometimes you'll say, hey, I saw the fire truck over the church. I saw the fire truck here. Sometimes it's training. Sometimes we're actually going through and doing walkthroughs and actually putting that down where people can see that information and share it, which is really important to us. And then lastly, on the training aspect, we had 47 hours of training available as of this part of the year in 2023. We moved that to 86. And why the big increase? One thing we identified in ISO review, the Insurance Services Office review, was that we weren't doing enough company level training to get some of the points we want. And so we're not just after the points, we're after the quality, obviously, but going to the staffing model we have now, which we started October 1st, has been immensely helpful because there's somebody here throughout the day that we can always put on a guaranteed company school. So if our folks can't make it to the Tuesday training, which I'm going to go teach when I leave here, there's a pretty good chance they can show up on a different day of the week and grab some training to boot. So I think they had a slide of Shane in there, and for whatever reason, I don't know if there's a broken link or something like that. So in closing, a couple noteworthy and new things. I just want to put on here. If you look at the top left, firefighter, medic Guzman, and firefighter, soon-to-be fire specialist Myers. That's in San Diego. They're actually practicing with women from around the country, and they got to participate in a very unique opportunity called Women in Fire. If it looks like Nathan Watts in the center picture up top is not in Morgan's Point, that's right. He's not. He's one of our best known firefighters. You see it. A lot of you guys know him. He's actually went and fought fire, not with Morgan's Point, but through the training he got here. He went and did contract work throughout the West Coast and in Wyoming and Montana and did some wildland firefighting, and he's back. If you look to the far right, that's the very first day recruit class, and that's retired battalion chief. And his name is escaping me right now. David Allen, I'm sorry, from the Cedar Hill Fire Department, who's also a docent with the Dallas Fire Museum. He came in to teach fire service history. We've had subject matter experts from around the state come in and teach in this academy. It's been really, really neat. And then at the bottom, you're looking at 9/11 over at the school. In the middle, you'll see Mark Wilkerson, our Captain Wilkerson, getting his advanced EMT patch, and then Shane Sibley and one of our drivers doing a smoke detector install on the very right. So that just kind of rounds out what a day in the life looks like at Morgan's Point Fire and what our quarter looked like. And that's it. I think I got that to 3 minutes. I'm not sure.
Hey, Jared.
Anything else or okay? Oh, I'm sorry. On a less of a highlight, we also lost a member this year. I put that in my closing slide. Thomas Lekowitz. I did this in memory of him. This is something I recognized today that we wanted to include in here. He was a founding member of the department. He died on August 19th this year. We went out and did a tribute for him over the funeral home, flew the American flag, and had a staff contingency there for him. So he will be missed. He was before my time, but he is certainly a contributing member of the department. We actually have an award named after him. And I can't really say the word, what it's for, but it's for the folks that are really, really good. They get the Thomas Leckwitz Award. You follow my drift. So thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay. Moving along, next on the agenda is the consent agenda, which I'd like to hear a motion to approve MN 24016, and if you want to combine it with the other meeting, MN 24017. One's for October 30th, the other's for October 7th. I understand there were a few minor changes that need to be made, and I think they have been made. So may I hear a motion to accept those, either one or both?
I'll make a motion to accept both of the minutes from October 7th and October 30th.
Okay, second.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, folks. Okay, next one is the resolution RS 24039. This has to do with the memorandum resolution for voting for a director for our representation on a tax appraisal district. We talked about this in the workshop. That's where the list of potential candidates. And it's just up for us to decide if you want to split them, or we have a total of 26 votes, as I understand it. Is that right, Kerry? 26, so we can split them, or we can, between different people, however you want to do it, or we can do it all with one. Right now, Jarrett Bryan is our representative. He's been that way, I guess, for what, about 10 years now, probably. So it's up to the council. Y'all make the move.
I'll make a motion that we allocate all of our votes to Jared Bryan.
All in second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, folks? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Second. 1 second, Mr.
Oh.
Mayor.
I just had one question. It says resolution 24039 on our agenda, but on the paper itself, it says 24041. So which is it?
So it's 39.
Okay, Roxanne? Is it? All in favor? We'll vote.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes on that to Mr. Bryant. Okay, next one has to do with our animal ordinance, OR 24010. Did you, Pam, gonna do it? Okay.
On the Article 203, animals other than household pets. So I believe NPR P&Z Commission discussed and recommended revisions to Chapter 2, Article 2.03, animals other than household pets on 6/25/2024. The item is now being brought to NPR City Council for the consideration of approval. And as highlighted in the last meeting, the following changes have been made to the ordinance. So new dates have been added to at the end of each page in terms of the format, and we can make that change and adjust. In terms of the second point, which is 2.03.003 enclosures, as recommended by P&Z in June, locating enclosures no closer than 25 feet away from the nearest property line, and the Belton or the Temple Independent School District. So this has been deleted from the document.
Yeah, 3E didn't get deleted, just so you know. So I sent that to you, Dennis. 3E, it got deleted on the first one, but it didn't get deleted at 3E.
We can make that change.
Yeah,
That's the P&Z Commission meeting on 6/25/2024. And in terms of the recommendation, by a vote of 4-0, P&Z recommended the approval of this request. I have also listed down references for the city council members at the bottom of the page, just for additional information in terms of what other cities are doing on the changes that have been recommended by P&Z, or if other sort of changes need to be made.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Mhm.
So the city of Belton, and by the way, I really appreciate P and Z going back and doing a lot of research on this. On the city of Belton, theirs is 200 feet away from the property line
Mhm.
for chickens? Okay, that's what I thought.
Through if needed. Otherwise, whatever decision the council makes.
Do you have temples right there?
Wait, let me. I have the city of Colleen and village of Salado.
Right, I saw those in there, and I appreciate you putting those references
Right.
in there a lot, because, I mean, there's a pretty wide spectrum there,
Right,
honestly.
right.
And I think where we have to decide as a council, you know, this is obviously a hot button topic, okay? It just is. I think, I look at, are we more Belton, and I think that's where, you know, everybody has different opinions.
Right.
I have a clarification question also. On section 2.003001, this part A, it says that the chickens have to be within 25 feet of the residence of any other owner of a property. But then on the next page, on part B of 2003.003, then it says it has to be, the pen has to be within 20 live chickens. And they have a property line that goes into the corner, farthest away from all the residents. But the fences do join up with the neighbors, but that's where they put their chicken coop, because it was kind of the best place. So I was wondering, possibly if you would have considered saying away from the residents,
In both
instead of the
Or adjacent property owner.
Yeah.
Like, or
yes.
buildings is what it says. in
Yeah,
one of
just
these.
like.
Yeah,
it
just
says
make
on-
them consistent. Yeah.
Right, right. Which is, so our intention this time around was basically, as you remember, the last meeting, the city council very, they guided us and advised that we had different sort of measurements. I think we had 150, then we had 25. So this time around, we wanted to make it consistent. And I agree with what your point, and we can make that change as recommended by the city council.
The wording habitable structure, because that puts it away from someone's house.
Right.
That's what they're recommending.
That's what, we're just saying habitable structures, that's what I'm saying.
Motion last meeting, and I'll make it again. With, other than some changes that we've just talked about, I'd like to see the 25 feet move to 50 feet. And I'm fine, and put that out on the table.
If you do it from the structure, so you could maybe be only 2 foot off your property line, but as long as you're 50 feet from your residential neighbor? Okay.
Yeah.
A little touchy. Okay, is that
To make a motion that we adopt this and change the 25 feet in both places, in 01 and 03, to 50. I'm suggesting that we make them both consistent with a habitable structure, 50 feet away from a habitable structure.
Do I hear a second on that?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
I would just like to make one comment, and that is, I hope the residents are well aware that there are opportunities that if you're having issues with your neighbor, having a new code enforcement officer, and he is fantastic, he is so willing to get in and help out, file a complaint, and let's go through. Let's see how many issues we have with chickens. If we have a ton, like Donna said, we have a ton of issues with chickens, we'll revise it. If this goes, all right, the number changed from 4 to 6, and that was never questioned. Dennis needs to recognize you, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. That's what it says.
That's what we're proposing. Now, if there are any issues at all, that's why I'm saying loud and, yeah, clear, if there are any issues with any rodents, with any smell, with
Snake.
pens not being cleaned out, we have a new code enforcement officer, and you just need to let him know. And the permit, you have to get a permit to do this, and your permit will be revoked. So there's some consequences.
David, normally I don't allow discussion while we are voting, but I would make an exception since it's already in the original ordinance.
It's in the ordinance.
It's in the original ordinance.
It's in the original ordinance, which is in the packet attached to the agenda.
Okay. If we voted, everything's good, move it right along. Sam, are you gonna do the one on the definitions too?
Yeah, yes, sir.
You wanna go ahead and move into that one?
Yes.
Can I just do one more clarification? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
This isn't to change anything, but this says that chickens can be used for any commercial gain. So that means you cannot sell your chicken eggs in the city of Morgan's Point. And you can't sell the chickens in the city of Morgan's Point because you can't have any commercial activity.
Right.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. The chicken or the egg, I don't know.
Give them away.
I might
All
want
right.
to buy chickens from my neighbor.
I mean, I would love to buy fresh eggs.
Okay, we're gonna look at ordinance OR.
Yes, exactly. Hopefully they give them to you.
We look at ordinance OR 240111, has to do with some definition.
P&Z Commission discussed and recommended revisions to the Code of Ordinances, specifically Appendix B, Section 3, definitions on 8/27/2024. And the item is now being submitted to the NPR City Council to discuss and determine if the item is to be approved and amended. As highlighted in the last meeting on 10/7/2024, the following items were considered and changes listed that were made are listed below. So the new dates have been added to the end of each page. Again, in terms of the format, the city council can advise what sort of format they want to see, and we can make the changes accordingly. The definition of church Bible study changed to religious study, and lists of priests, nuns changed to religious officiants. Again, this was changed and incorporated into the document, and I've also in the references just given what the other cities in the surrounding regions are using in terms of definitions for really church or places of worship. The garage parking is defined as a building used for storage of 4 or more automobiles, and we have kept this as recommended by P&Z. Again, if you need me to walk you through different definitions that are used by other cities, we can do that. And in terms of the references provided at the end of the document, you can also see.
I'm not
what
sure I
other cities-
understand. So if I have a garage and I only park 2 cars in it, I'm not considered garage parking? I have to have 4 or more vehicles?
So this is mainly, I think 4 is the sort of base point. If you have 2, it's still considered a garage, but 4 is just like a base point instead of listing down 6 or 8.
Is it paid parking or parking for public, not just for personal use? Garage parking would be, if I came to an event here and I found a garage I could park in, there'd have, not my home residence, right? Is that correct, or?
The garage parking, as I understand, is for your personal parking,
Oh.
not commercial, because if it's commercial, as we have, it would list down commercial parking, not garage parking.
I'm sorry, I still don't understand it. Does that mean an auxiliary building that is determined to be garage parking? It has to have 4 or more vehicles?
I think they test.
I just don't,
Try to classify it as a parking garage.
right?
Parking garage, not as a garage for your house. Parking garage being a commercial,
So this is an
Yeah.
auxiliary building,
yeah.
and it has to have 4 vehicles to
Be a
be
parking garage,
classified
yeah.
as a parking garage. It can't just have 2. Or it can have a boat and 2 cars. I'm sorry I'm being thick.
No. So let me go through the different definitions that I have for other cities. So as used by the city of Belton, garage parking, any building or portion thereof used for the storage of 4 or more automobiles in which any servicing provided is incidental to the primary storage use and where repair facilities are not provided. So it's basically the exact same definition that the city of Belton is using. The one used by the city of Temple in Article 11, definition section 11.2, an accessory building housing vehicles owned and used by occupants of the main building. If occupied by vehicles of others, it is a storage space. So they have not specified the number of cars or vehicles in their definition.
Basically applies to an accessory building. Does that understand?
Yeah.
It's not what our definition says.
I'm asking you if that's what if that's
So
what
can I
it is.
ask, what was the concern of, like, there was a reason that this was addressed, right? So do we have a specific incident and why we were even, like, I'm confused also. 'Cause I look around our city and I see metal buildings everywhere that's got 2 boats and a couple custom cars in it, and like, I'm just trying to figure it out.
In terms of why this was brought to the PNC to change, I can go back and check because I think this happened back before I joined. So I can go
I'm
back
just
to the meeting
curious. I
notes
mean,
and understand.
Just don't understand.
I don't understand the applicability.
Okay.
So I understand what the definition is saying, but I don't understand the applicability of when you would use this definition. And maybe we just need to find it in our ordinances because these are definitions.
Right.
So these are terms used in our ordinances that need clarification. So maybe we need to find it in our ordinance, how it's used, and then figure out its applicability.
Okay. So,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So if it just didn't have the 4 in there and just said automobiles, would that not,
No, it's purpose.
would that not be adequate? I'm just asking you, sir.
What about boats?
It says for the storage of automobiles, that would be garage parking, you know. Are other vehicles, or I don't know. I'm not sure why it says 4, I guess. I'm kind of confused too.
By chance, is the intent try to make it to where they cannot go much larger than that, where 4 vehicles, what's adaptable for 4 vehicles is not, in other words, they couldn't put a 6, 7, 8 car garage.
It says 4 or more.
4 or more would be considered a garage.
Right.
So you're limiting so this is for residential zoning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And you don't know the reason why they wanted to ask for this definition to be,
I can definitely go back and check.
it might be something, council, your
why
choice.
it was-
You could always take this item until we get some more information on clarity, if it's all right.
Now, how's it used in the ordinance so we know what we're talking about?
Sure.
Okay.
And you might want to look and see if there's any other
Is there
definitions you
anything
want.
else under that you like to have him check while he's at it?
Yes, I have one.
Okay, okay.
Because I own a recreational vehicle. The definition is, it's on page 5 of 7. It's a portable or mobile living unit used for temporary human occupancy away from the place of permanent residence of the occupants and self-propelled or motorized. That doesn't address a camper or a fifth wheel. There's bumper pulls, there's fifth wheels, and there's motorhomes. And so I was thinking it could be motorized or towable, you know, because that way would encompass all of those. And then the other part of that definition I would question is, we watch all kinds of people who are full-time RVers. And so that's where they live. It's not away from their permanent residence, but it's still an RV. So I just thought maybe a little clarification on that one would be helpful.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we're okay. We want to do I hear a motion to table, please?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we table and get some clarification on some of the definitions. And then also the ordinance needs to be cleaned up, which I've given all those comments to Dennis. The ordinance has some issues.
Can I make a suggestion? Could you send your comments to Sam, so to be sure that we cover everything that you will have a question about, so he's not mistaken?
Okay,
Y'all
sure.
mind doing that?
Send them to Dennis and he can forward them all?
Okay, or that, just, Or if I were to tell me to forward it to Dennis if you want.
You know, if you want to forward it to me, I'll forward it on to Sam.
Well, you only get one, you're not dealing with a bunch of them.
At least he's got some guidance as to what it is, and you're not coming back with 2 or 3 more.
Yeah, and then the ordinance is Camille, so I've already given to Camille and Dennis, okay.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor to table it. Do I hear a second? I'm sorry.
Okay, this definition is garage parking, not just garage. Okay, all right. I see, okay.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Of tabling it, yeah.
Okay, any
Tabling.
opposed? That's tabled. Okay, next thing on the agenda, okay, is consider ordinance OR 24-012, and that's the waste management rate increase that we talked about in the workshop. Do I hear a motion on to accept that, please?
I move to accept ordinance or 012, amending ordinances of the city of Morgan's Point Resort, chapter 13, utilities.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
One second. Okay, discussion?
I just want to put it on the record that the waste management increase is passed, well, the waste management rates are passed on dollar for dollar to our residents, and that this increase is, what did we calculate, Carrie, about little over 2%. And the reason it's not higher is diesel fuel is down significantly year over year. And so we are passing on, it's going from, okay, Carrie, you're going to have to give the right number. It's a total of $19.89, but I don't have the prior year. I don't have the prior year, but it's about a little over 2% increase.
This is built into their contract.
2.16%.
These rate increases are built into the contract that we signed with them, so it's not unusual.
Right. Okay,
1798 to 1837.
plus sales tax, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we just need to vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, going on. That's the end. That's everything. Council, we'll start with Pat. You have anything you'd like to say to citizens or to council?
No, we just thank you for coming out and asking questions. We need questions and concerns. We're not that gifted that we can divine everything, most things, but not everything. Thanks for your input. And thank you for the history.
Steve, you have anything?
Just again, humbling just to even be part of the group and to be part of this city. It's a great place to live, and I'm thankful for every one of you guys.
Neil, we never hear from you. Do you like to say anything? Wake up.
I look at my role here is I don't say anything unless I'm specifically asked a question or unless y'all are getting ready to make a really big mistake. So,
I guess silence is good then, I guess.
Thank you, sir. Dorothy?
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming, and I also want to mention 3 events that are coming up. There's some events on the agenda that are coming up, the auxiliary meeting, planning and zoning and COPS meeting, but also there's a coffee with a council member on every Friday after the council meetings, and Roxanne will be hosting the one this Friday, and it's in the library. Okay, and then also the library.
8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
I'm sorry, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Also, the library is having their 6th annual art show. And those, if you haven't gone, it's this Saturday. I don't have the time in front of me, but 6 to 9. 6 to 8 o'clock, thank you. And it is awesome. It's at the community center, and there is some incredible artists, a lot of them local. And then the other one I wanted to mention is on December 6th, we're going to have our probably 50th anniversary of our holiday event with Santa and Mrs. Claus, and that's a huge hit for families. I mean, they are lined outside the door to come sit on Santa's lap and get some gifts. So I just wanted to mention those three. And singing with Mrs. Claus on the hayride and drinking hot chocolate and making Christmas ornaments, and it's a lot of fun.
Ms. Claus, are you 50? Oh, I let her go. Jimbo?
I'm gonna swap hats here, take council off and put fire department on since chief's gone. Just a friendly reminder, it's getting colder. People are gonna start using their fireplaces. Please be careful. And remember to open the flue when your house fills up with smoke. And we have run a couple of those calls already, and we've assured the citizens that they are not the first and they will not be the last to do it. So just, if you haven't already had your, and this is for everybody here and everybody watching, get your fireplaces inspected before you start stoking the fires in them, please.
Ms. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thanks for coming. Nothing else to say.
Dennis, anything left?
If Mayor Pro Tem is going to be hosting the coffee, I think she needs to bring the donuts.
Boom.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Okay, is there a second? All in favor? Aye. I vote.